Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the the Truth and Reconciliation mission from Halo Combat Evolved on the next mission. This mission, we are debriefing Halo from Halo Combat Evolved. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
Halo what?
So the last mission, we narrowly escaped Planet Reach. The Pillar of Autumn pokes out of slip space right outside a mysterious ring-shaped planet. We quickly get introduced to Captain Keyes, the ship's AI, Cortana, and Sergeant Avery Johnson, who are prepping for the Covenant to attack the ship. Our green super soldier protagonist, Master Chief, is then released from the hushed casket to protect the critical military information inside Cortana. We stuff as many Marines as we can into the last escape pod and head down onto the Halo. This mission, Chief and Cortana dust themselves off from the Bumblebee escape pod as the only survivors and proceed to get their bearings on this crazy Halo world. We quickly discover the Covenant is hunting down the rest of the survivors, so we hop in a Warthog to locate and save as many as we can. The date of this game is September 19th, 2552, the same day continuation from the previous mission.
He didn't have a nap on the pod?
No naps. Lots of naps in the last game.
So many naps. They were napping all the time. That's why Reach fell. They're just sitting around napping.
You know what? I think you're onto something. That's why we're so far behind. Time. Too many naps. So this is like our first steps onto a Halo. This is a pretty epic moment.
It's the moment everyone talks about, right? This is the moment. It's not really Pillar of Autumn. It's stepping out onto the ring-shaped world and seeing like the horizon like slowly arc above you, and you can just watch people's eyes as they like follow the length of the ring all the way over to the other side.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool moment. I feel like it also kind of takes a while. I remember playing originally, and this time again, you land, you're on the planet, you're looking around at whatever's going on, the waterfall and everything else that's going on, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, and you like kind of locate, okay, wait a minute, I am on the Halo, this is amazing. Then you kind of scan around. It's a really cool, it's one of the most iconic missions, I think, because it's that first time on the Halo. David, what were your feels, David, when you finally got back?
Initially, got back. So, very first time I played this mission, it was awesome. I was like totally overwhelmed with the size of the map and just how big it is. And like the second you get control and you walk out, okay, a little bit of a bummer, everybody's dead. That's kind of harsh, and especially because you were the one standing. But like, I guess it's the whole, I imagine Chief locked his armor that Spartans do when they're doing like crazy re-entry stunts. So I imagine he survived some kind of cool stuff. But everybody dying was kind of a bummer. But it was pretty cool. I loved when as soon as you get out, you get to kind of look around and you get to see the Halo curving, and like Krista says, it's just a cool moment to look and watch.
Yeah. And
we were playing earlier and we were going back and forth between the old and new graphics just to see. It's just crazy to see all that was added into the skybox. I mean, it was impressive back then, but like seeing it now is like, oh man, it's so cool, so much detail.
I like how they give you a chance to kind of take it in too. So you got to poke around a little bit before some of the the Covenant start showing up, and then you realize, oh, I'm not alone. All right, let's let's do this. And
we get our first look.
What's that?
At the we got our first look at the Banshees and the Spirit drop ships. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a cool moment. I really like those Spirit drop ships.
I've always liked their design. Yeah, they're pretty alien, pretty funky. Like, you know what I mean?
They look like a tuning fork, essentially.
Yeah.
I like how I like how in all of the books they just describe it as U. It's just an uppercase U, as like the Spirit ships. They look like a U-shaped thing.
Yeah, that's accurate. That makes sense. Yeah, so the Banshees are also an interesting thing because, well, again...
they don't like the pistols.
They don't...
Yeah.
You can blow them up, though, right? Like, you can just fire
with
away
the
at
pistol,
them.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like to like bait them in, and as they dive down, it's really kind of cool. If you switch to the AR, you can just pump a clip into them, and it actually does loads of damage up close. Like if you get a full clip onto a Banshee, and then you just shoot them.
Do you remember if they show up when you cross the bridge?
Yes.
Yeah, you trigger them as you cross.
Oh, okay.
They won't spawn before.
Here's a meme for you guys. Who will win? Super amazing alien technology or one pistol?
One pistol.
Yep.
The pistol is super amazing human technology, Krista.
I know, but the Banshee is super amazing alien technology.
It's awesome.
Before you cross the bridge, you can go find a skull,
the
second skull
waterfall.
of the game, in the water. And it is which one is it? I have it in my notes here. Where is it? Mythic Skull. And
yeah, don't put that skull on.
Don't do that, because that doubles everybody's health.
Unless you're doing a lasso, and good luck.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
We played all of Pillar of Autumn on a lasso once, David.
Boo.
He didn't.
We never finished it, actually.
I think we got to the double decker part.
Yeah.
And then you were like, I don't want to do this anymore, and I'm like, fine.
It had been like 12 hours, Krista.
It wasn't 12. It was like 1.5 hours or something. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. David, why do you always get me off topic?
Because you love it.
I do love it. I love being off topic.
So you can poke around with some of those Banshees if you want, destroy them if you want. They will eventually kind of go off onto the side.
I think there's an achievement for getting both of them, isn't there?
Maybe.
I think there was before they escape.
We then the other interesting thing is, I guess when you land on the Halo, you don't necessarily expect it to just look like Earth. You know, it's green, it's got trees and rocks and everything. I guess I didn't know what to expect, but that's where it kind of felt weird. It's like I'm on this alien ring thing, but it kind of feels normal, and I'm climbing up this nice, hilltop, and then there's more aliens shooting at me. And there, this is the first. Do we first see jackals here, or is it in the next section?
Yes, we first
in the next section. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's when we're walking up the hill, we get to see a couple jackals.
Yeah. There isn't jackals there. I think it's just grunts and elites. But it's when you go around the hill and get to the first kind of marine encounter where you're defending the marines on that little. I can't remember what those things are. The pulse up. I know they did describe them. They told us what they are.
Yeah, the
before.
structures.
Structures,
like
they shoot up
something.
the pulses of lights.
What do those pulses do?
I think,
I wrote that down in my notes.
They're like the spokes for the ring. Because if you got to think of the ring as like one big wheel, it actually has spokes to it, and those spokes all give energy to the middle of the ring. And I think they also have something to do with the ring's firing mechanism as well.
I think so
too. So
it's
the structure of the ring, and it's with the firing mechanism.
Okay. And so there's just however many around the Halo that just kind of fire that pulse up into the center?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Need to look
at least that's what I remember last time I did the lore about it.
Yeah. It's a cool effect for sure, and it is, mysterious. Like, what is going on here?
Have you guys ever jumped into it? Because you can jump into it. You just immediately die. You have to glitch it out, but you can get in it. That's what I did as a kid. We did dumb shit like
that. We meet up with some Marines after we kind of clean up the Covenant there at the base, and it's Johnson's voice. Is it Johnson? Do you guys know?
I don't think
it's that character.
Johnson's not.
Johnson
until the
wasn't
last
really
of the mission,
a character.
Right?
Yeah, but he isn't like a real character for most of this game. I think
he's like a comic relief,
by name.
like funny character that Bungie put in.
Yeah,
and that's why there's the Easter egg at the end where he's just hugging an elite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it is him because there are parts like one of the kind of things in this game is like if he survives, he asks for a volunteer. Say, "Oh, Marines, we need a volunteer." When the kind of Warhawk gets dropped off, and sometimes it's him, and he'll climb in, and you can take him around the mission.
Oh,
it's kind of cool.
That's right. So before we get there, I guess before we get that Warthog, we have to defend that spot, and there's a number of dropships that come in. I think there's 3 or 4 dropships that come in and pop out. So here's where you're really kind of testing your your gun skills, I guess, in this open environment. And it does feel good. It feels big, right? You know, you're used. You know, you enter the game. First mission is you're in this ship, which is very all down the long corridors, and it's very tight. And now it's a wide open space. So you can attack these encounters lots of different ways.
Yeah, it's a great kind of mechanic of this game that it does that, and it leaves these kind of encounters open because it makes it very replayable, I think, and how you deal with it. It's pretty cool.
There's usually always some goodies and some health packs on the top of that structure, so make sure to go back up there.
And an extra pistol in case you lose yours.
That's right. Actually,
or steal it from your friend.
I made it through. I haven't picked up a Covenant weapon yet through this whole thing, and this is on normal though, granted. So I haven't. Really
you don't really have to on normal.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
David and I have been playing on Legendary, so we've been picking up a lot of plasma pistols.
Mm-hmm. How did this mission compare on Legendary to the previous one? Was this a lot harder?
It went really fast. We were like at the end of the mission. We're like, oh, I guess this is the end. I feel like this mission feels a lot longer the first time you play it when you don't know where you're going. But since David and I really know what we're doing, it wasn't that bad. There are a lot of elites, so they kind of gave us trouble here and there. But I mean, all in all, we didn't die too many times.
No.
We only had to restart from a checkpoint 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and one time it's just because we wanted to get the skull.
Oh yeah.
And so we killed ourselves. But I think that encounter is fun. It's like the first ever, let's say, firefight moment.
Yes.
You're just defending an area against waves of enemies. And at the end of it then you get a cool prize.
A beep. A puma.
Yes. The puma.
What?
So I think Puma.
A puma.
What are you talking about?
Have you never seen Red versus Blue?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Then you don't know what a puma is.
And they call it a puma because it's like a cat.
Oh, that's right. That's
okay.
I think I just watched the first couple episodes and they talk about it in there, right?
Chupa thingy. Anyway.
That's right. Anyway, so we mentioned jackals also, and this is kind of our first encounter with jackals with shields, which is a cool mechanic. And I'm not recalling. I'm sure there are other games that had similar type of foes, I guess, or enemies with shields, but they do a good job. Jackals are kind of always frustrating for me. Is you kind of have to be really precise to get them to kind of stall or stutter back, whatever it is, and then open themselves up. And then I feel like the hitbox is always weird because I feel like every time I do, I'll open them up and then I try to hit them in the head and it doesn't always hit. So maybe it's just me, maybe it's something quirky.
There are some inconsistencies between the older graphics and the newer graphics, just because where the heads are don't look like where the heads are, kind of. Something that, and with foliage and stuff, the newer version has a lot more foliage to shoot around. But, I mean, if you go back into original graphics, it's usually a lot bleaker, so it's easier to get enemies. So I find myself, switching back and forth a little bit, or just sticking to the older graphics, because it's easier to tell where the hitboxes are a little bit. There's not really that inconsistency. It's a very, very slight inconsistency, though. Yeah. I don't think a normal player would really feel it.
Sure. Or just think that maybe they can take 2 headshots or something like that.
Yeah.
The other great thing about jackals is when they do die, their shields kind of burst into a little colored thing. I don't know if that. I guess I didn't look in the older treatment, in the original treatment, but in Anniversary, it's apparent. It kind of does a cool little burst animation.
Well, and later in the game, the energy weapon, the energy sword does that too. It has a little explodey kind of thing.
Oh, that's right. It does, yeah.
That's actually we'll talk about that later, but that's a special variant of energy sword. So we'll leave that for later.
So we clean up the Covenant in this area after a couple dropships come in, and then Echo 419 Foehammer comes in.
The goddess.
Who I mistakenly thought was in our Bumblebee escape pod originally.
Who died in the
voice.
Bumblebee escape pod.
Yeah. But I guess that is one of the confusing things about this is I think I pick up on a lot more audio cues than I than I pick up on maybe what they're actually saying. That's just me. So I heard Fohammer's voice in the Bumblebee pod, and then I heard her again here, and then like Johnson in the beginning, and then he's also here. And I think they reuse a lot of voices throughout, especially in this first game. So it gets a tad confusing. But we see Fohammer, who's one of my favorites. She's that pilot with an attitude.
I honestly don't think Bungie thought that some of the characters that the community really, held on to were characters that were going to leave any kind of memory, like Johnson and Fohammer. People love them, but I think they really expected people to be more interested in like Cortana and Guilty Spark, but people really liked Fohammer. I don't think they expected that to happen. It was just like, oh, this little side character, she'll talk some smack and pick you up.
Well, Fohammer's got a sweet name too. That's one of the
she
coolest
does,
things.
yeah.
She is. Let's see. I just brought up her page because I like her so much. Carol Raleigh is Fohammer, and there's some trivia here. What's Fohammer is? I'm not finding it. Oh, it's from Middle Earth. That's right. It's from
Gandalf's sword.
Lord of the Rings. Yes, so good.
David, you were like, "What?" when I said that, and I'm like, "No, it's Gandalf's sword."
It took me a second or two to think of it, but I knew what you meant.
Yeah, Fohammer.
It has some weird elven name too, but everybody just calls it Fohammer.
Cool. There's a cool kind of talking point where Cortana mentions a command shuttle to Fohammer, although the actual meeting point for UNSC sources is the Alpha Base. So I think she was talking about like the command crew's specific lifeboat. But the Alpha Base was actually introduced in Halo: The Flood, which came out 2 years after the game. So that's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Almost kind of retcon some stuff for The Flood, but I guess we'll get to see some of that, like we talked about Fireteam Raven coming out, some of that kind of detail.
So
we've mentioned on our shows before.
This game is interesting because Cortana's in your brain, and she's kind of just chatting along and dropping you bits of lore and mission information along the way, which is great. But it's also you don't always pick up on it. At least I don't always pick up on it. So we'll do our best, I guess, to kind of mention the interesting stuff or the stuff that moves the story forward as she says it.
You know what really helps?
There's a lot of dialogue there.
Subtitles, because not all of the lines she says are one or. Between her and Guilty Spark, not all the lines they say are lines you can really hear at certain points, especially in the library. So if you put on those subtitles, it really, really helps to catch everything that they're talking about. Yeah.
Yep. And I giggle because you've mentioned that like 8 times to me now throughout this entire...
Turn on I'm going to start messaging you. Turn on the subtitles. It helps.
Definitely helps. Let's see here. Then so we get that Warthog from Fohammer. So Fohammer controls, yay or nay? Krista, yay or nay controls?
Fohammer controls? You mean
no,
for
Warthog,
the Warthog?
Warthog controls.
You mean Warthog controls?
Oh, I was on the turret. I made David drive.
Yeah. So
in general, do you like the Warthog controls, or do you?
They're kind of floaty. They're not quite precise as some of the older titles. But you get used to it.
Yeah, but as you get into it and you get used to it, it becomes the way you know how to drive. So, like, I've told the story before on the podcast. I was pretty much very quickly delegated to the driver when it came to playing Halo games with my friends and stuff, because everyone wants to shoot the turret. So I was like, alright, fine. So even from way back, my first time, I was driving as everyone else was shooting. So I got used to the controls a long time ago. So I consider myself quite a good driver of the Warthogs. It takes some getting used to Halo, because it does change across the games. And the Halo C Warthog is a heavy Warthog. It's very sluggish.
Yeah, and you bounce and you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of bounce. There's a lot of it tumbles very easily. But one cool thing which I've always liked about Halo, and they got rid of it in the later games, but especially in this game, if you tip somebody with any sign of momentum, any amount of it, and they're dead, one hit.
Yeah.
That's so helpful for some of the harder difficulties when you're just mashing through elites. It's very, 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 very useful.
Yeah.
It happens to your friends too.
It sure does.
He tapped me. He tapped me with the Warthog. Instantly did.
Yeah. In this mission, you kind of need the Warthog the entire time because it's a big area.
You do.
It's a huge area.
And
I think there's an achievement for finishing this mission with no warg without getting into it.
It is such that achievement is a pain in the ass. It's the slowest
there's some grenade
shit.
jumps that are needed and stuff, so there's some it drags out the mission straight, definitely. But it was kind of fun to do, even though I suck at grenade jumps. So that one.
Oh yeah, because so you have to drive through that cave, and that's where you need a grenade jump,
That's
right?
right. The famous cave.
Yeah, the famous cave. Yes. What do they say? It's not a natural formation.
Not a natural formation.
Oh really?
So everyone really calls this line out as being like blatantly obvious and pretty terrible, but actually the line was actually in reference to something else. So originally the cave, which Cortana referred to, looked natural, although Cortana could tell that it was not. The cave was changed to look artificial near the end of the level's development, but the line was never changed, so they never really re-recorded the dialogue.
Gotcha.
So instead, like, they kind of kept that way. And then the statement serves as a namesake of a chapter in Halo Reach, which we talked about in the level of the package, in which Noble Team retrieves Cortana from the Forerunner complex. So that's actually called, this cave is not a natural formation. If you recall, we would have talked about that earlier in this series, or in Season 1.
It's something that's highly referenced. That is very well... It's quoted all the time.
Yeah, it's a fun talking point amongst, in Halo.
It's memed all the time.
Lore circles. Memed, that's the word.
Memes.
Yeah, I feel like the subtitles of the missions in the early games aren't as like tongue-in-cheek as the ones in the later ones. They're still good, and I didn't write them down, so if you guys...
they were up in their game as you go through, but they're always fun things to look at in one stage, but it's cool.
Yeah, so before you go into the non-natural cave, there is another skull on the top. The boom skull.
Boom!
So just kind of climb up there on top.
That one is a fun one.
Grass. And that's what that enhances explosions. Is that what?
Yeah,
it
explosions are the explosion radius is 2 times bigger.
Nice.
So it just makes giant explosions, and pair that with the pinata skull, and you have a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna get through the mission very fast, but you're gonna have a lot of fun doing it.
Well, and that's it just kind of highlights this game is fun to just mess around in. You know, it's a fun, interesting world. Obviously, we're still here talking about Halo years later, so it's a cool science fiction universe. But it's also just you can have a lot of fun just dicking around in it too. Definitely
with the CEA editions where they brought in the skulls. Do you know what I mean? That definitely helped replay some of the missions, making it fun. And with the skulls and finding the skulls and the terminals, all these little things in the environment do make the game fun to explore and enjoy.
The first terminal that we find, or the only terminal, I guess, in the mission, is through the cave. And this cave is also kind of a trial for your driving skills. It's not easy to get through if you're not used to the controls. So we kind of wind in and out, and then we got a little flashing yellow terminal off to the side. We'll cover what is in that later on. But we also mentioned it does launch the Halo app. And I actually went down a little rabbit hole. It was weird. So I got to that. I popped open the Halo app. I didn't have it installed because I have an Xbox One X, and I haven't touched it since then, or didn't reinstall it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, look at all this Halo stuff from 2016 at the latest. They haven't touched it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
No,
they have not updated it in a long time.
There's good stuff there. They just haven't updated it.
There is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Forward Unto Dawn can be watched there, and
Nightfall.
Yeah, actually,
stuff like that.
I actually started watching Nightfall. I was like, let's just give this another chance, and it was okay. I watched 5-10 minutes of the first episode. It was all right. I didn't want, I'll probably, I don't know if I'll watch that eventually. The rest of it again. All right, so let's keep going through this tunnel here, and then we reached this giant area, and with a dead bridge, with a bridge knocked out, and then we have a little encounter here, and this is where I start to notice the turret and how good it sounds, how good it feels.
And it just shreds too. It just shreds enemies. It's ridiculous. Even in Legendary, it just destroys everything.
Yep. This is a fun encounter too because there's lots of places to hide, and you can hear the grunts kind of screaming and around, and you kind of have to chase after them sometimes. It's actually a pretty good encounter. And then you have to go and activate the light bridge, and there's always an elite hiding up there.
Always. Or 2.
Yep.
If you're on Legendary, there's 2 or 3.
Oh,
I think there was only 2. It's like 2 red ones.
Yeah, there was a red one up there waiting for me just around the corner, so I took him out, went and activated, and then you kind of just bound down the side of that structure back into the Warthog.
Did you get the bridge activating cutscene?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we did not.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure if it was co-op or because it was on
or
Legendary.
Maybe.
We weren't sure, but it didn't show the animation of the bridge forming.
Oh, interesting. There's not a lot to it, but it is, it's kind of cool. Again, if you're playing this for the first time, you're like, oh, what's going on?
It's developers going, you can drive over it. It's okay.
It's light, but it's solid. Hard light.
It's hard light. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Then we pop out of the other side of the cave, and now we have to go save. I guess the one thing we forgot to mention when Fohammer, before she drops the Warthog, you see your other kind of escape pods landing off in the distance. So that's kind of your mission, is to go find other survivors, is go chase after those escape pods. When we pop out of this cave, when we pop out of this underground forerunner structure, then we have a choice. Now we can go around and find. There's 3 different encounters that we can go find. I always go clockwise. Do you guys have a set order that you go through?
Yeah, I do that too. I go to the one where the snipers are on the ridge.
We do the sniper one, the one with the other pylon thingy, and the guys hiding behind the boulders, and then we do the one with the underground area.
Okay. Because clockwise
that's
is
always
actually,
been my way.
Because you go up the hill, and then you can turn a hard left, and that's where the underground encounter is first.
I like having the sniper rifle through the whole thing, though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes it way easier, because you can just stay all the way in the back and just take out all the enemies.
Mm-hmm. Especially on Legendary, I didn't really need the sniper rifle on normal, but it is a fun find. So then, you go in the sniper rifle area, there's a big structure at the base, and then there's a hill that you run up, and that's where all your Marines are. That's where that sniper rifle is it kind of in the bushes there. There's actually quite a bit on Legendary. That's kind of is that the hardest, would you say? Or no, I bet you the boulder one is the hardest.
The boulder one is the hardest. That's the one we died on.
Yeah. That's the one where it seems to be the most, and there's a couple drop ships. But
yeah, there's a lot of elites there and not a whole lot of cover. But if you have the sniper, there's also a sniper there too. So a
Marine has it though, doesn't he? I think a Marine has it.
It's a dead Marine.
Oh, okay.
At that one, there's a dead Marine there.
Yeah, the boulder one is interesting because that area feels big too. That's the biggest of the 3 areas. And I never feel like I get that much help from Marines in that one. The other 2, I feel like they do help out a little bit.
No, they stay way back for the boulder one.
Yeah.
The Covenant needs to be on top of you before the actual Marines help.
Right. So you're kind of running down, trying to draw.
Yeah, most of the time I'm
up.
doing that. Or I'm sniping down. Most of the time it's what I do. Or if I'm in my mood, if I'm trying to run them over, which is how we died. Just like wedged the car and we all died.
That was fun.
You can't get the Warthog all the way to the top, can you?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I tried a little bit. I guess I
everywhere.
tried right where I entered. I tried, but then I just figured it's like, it's not worth it. I didn't want to get stuck. So, just kept on shooting them aliens on foot.
Kept on trucking.
Mm-hmm. And then the last encounter is where there's a couple structures, 2 structures, and then there's kind of an underground connection, I guess. And then all your Marines are down there hanging out. And that one, I feel like that one's probably the initial one where the sniper's on the hill. That's probably the easiest one. And then the underground is the second hardest, and then Boulder's probably the 3rd hardest for me. But then it's kind of cool because wherever you end up, whichever one you do last, is where that cutscene drops.
Yes.
So it's not like a generic cutscene where you then kind of like go to the center where it's the same thing. Then Fohammer will come and pick you up wherever you end up, which is cool.
Good stuff.
What else do we have? There's not a whole lot of. Weapon differentiation. So this is the first sniper rifle. We could talk about the sniper rifle in this one a little bit.
First sniper and the first needler.
Super powerful.
Oh, just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really good.
I suck at it, but it is a great sniper. 4 shots in the clip. Cool little night vision thingy.
I even have the hair triggers on, so I can just blast really fast.
Of course you do.
Of course, yeah. Gotta have the hair triggers.
So the needler is also in this, so I do actually like this weapon. It's in CE, it's a bit slow. So there's that thing to be more.
It's not a flame.
It can be. Yeah.
Yeah, the Needler it's one of those things where when an enemy is firing it, because you can hear it, just kind of slowly pings off. And it's weird to be able to see the bullets and dodge the bullets. You kind of feel like
see them slowly coming towards you. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. But, well, just like all Halo weapons, it's very iconic in its look and in its sound, and like when you've been needled too many times, you're dead. You got that pink mist. You're all gone. But
and if you're not paying attention, it's somebody one of the grunts or whoever is using it can come behind you and blow you up pretty easily. Sometimes
the elites have it as well, and they'll pump those shots out at you. It's pretty. When you have the explosion radius on, it also maximizes that. So you can detonate grenade explosions with your needler explosions. So I do like it sometimes. I like using it.
What's the stigma behind using the needler in multiplayer? Because I feel like it's overpowered, right? In multiplayer?
Yeah, people...
they slightly home, so there's a bit of that, like the needles will home into.
It's kind of like using the plasma pistol and headshot combo in multiplayer. It's just too easy. So for some reason, there's like this it's polite not to use those or something. It's really weird. It's really weird how that kind of happened with the community, but people don't use the noob tube really, and people really don't use the needlers.
Yeah, usually when somebody's using the needler, then you get a comment like, "Oh, what are you new? Are you noob using that needler?"
I think it's more used in Halo 5 though, because they have the special variant type needlers in like Warzone. So that's when people use it a little more, but in some of the other games...
Those are great. I love them.
Yeah, they're really good.
I love the needler. When I first started playing Halo, because I was mainly playing campaigns, I was like, yes, this thing is awesome. Give me a needler. Let's go blow up some aliens. It's great.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was my favorite too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so weird too. It's so different than anything else that you see in Halo.
It's very
or
alien.
Other games, right? What else? What else we want to cover before we talk about that terminal? Anything else, you guys? We have the ending cutscene. We already talked about that. Well, they do mention that they found keys, right? They located keys.
Yes, and that we're gonna go help him. Search and rescue mission.
Cortana also says she says that she disabled the Truth and Reconciliation, which is weird. Did you guys pick up on that?
Yeah, she did it in the fight above the ring before you crash. She disabled one of the cruisers, so it was before the Mac cannon got wiped out. So essentially, I guess before Chief woke up in those moments in that aerial fight.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So they at least they kind of write in the reason in the next mission. The Truth and Reconciliation is kind of sitting there, so they write that in. And if you don't pick up on that one line, then it does seem a little bit weird. But oh well. Should we talk terminal?
Yes, let us talk the terminal, because it's really
thick.
Cool. Yeah, it has a lot of content to it. I mean, this is set before the rings were actually put in place, because you can see them hovering around the Ark. So the rings haven't been put in place yet. The monitors are being assigned to their rings, so you get to see all the different monitors. And they're being given their activation index, which becomes really important at the end of this. Another thing they talk about a lot is Forerunner Society and their connection to the domain. So if you don't know what the domain is kind of, I'd say, like, if I were to compare it...
Uber Internet?
Yeah, it's Uber Internet. If I was to compare it to anything we have, it's like a super internet. And
the domain was kind of mysterious up until recently too, right? Like
it's still fucking mysterious, dude.
Yeah, people don't really know how it works. It's kind of a kind of like a neurological, half biological, half not kind of structure. It's really weird.
They've explained more recently since Halo 4, but up until then, it was really like, what
like everyone's like,
thing?
What is a domain?
Yeah.
And of course the Forerunner books.
Yeah, the Forerunner books help, but definitely with Halo 5 and where that story went, which we won't talk about right now, the domain is huge. Yeah, there is actually a comic about it, which is very interesting, which I don't think a lot of people have read, which kind of explains... You have, good man. Explains a lot of what happens with certain characters in Halo 5, and I imagine in the next Halo game, there'll be more talk of this, because it's such a huge point.
Definitely.
But anyway, sorry. Keep going, Chris.
Okay, so basically what the domain is pretty early on in Forerunner Society, they started cataloging and putting everything into the domain. And as you become older, you gain unlimited access basically straight into your brain to the domain. So you don't have to really remember things as much. You can just access them right away, kind of like how smartphones work for us now. Like, we don't have to remember too much. We just, just Google it on your smartphone. Why are you asking me that question? Right. That's kind of how important it is. It just contains the entirety of Forerunner society. And since at this point the Forerunners were basically leaving the galaxy, dying, they were worried that without the domain, no one's going to be able to hold the mantle of responsibility. The mantle of responsibility is basically just the most powerful, most technologically advanced race has a duty to keep the universe safe from war, from parasites like the Flood, to just kind of keep order in the galaxy. So, the Forerunners were worried that the only thing left of them would be just their weapons, their structures, and not anything about their society, about the mantle, and about everything they accomplished. So that was a really big kind of thing in the terminal that if you don't know the background of the lore makes absolutely no sense. It's like, why are they so worried about this domain thing? That's kind of weird. But
it gives you so many rabbit holes to chase down.
It really does. It really does. And I think at this point the Forerunner books weren't quite all out. Maybe one was out, but at this point the Forerunners were still very mysterious to us. All of these words that Guilty Spark keeps alluding to are not something that we had common knowledge of. Like,
yeah, he drops ecumene, which isn't really common knowledge. It was like, what is that?
Yeah, the Forerunner ecumene is just the kind of the seat of political power. They make all the decisions and stuff. Those are the important people.
Like a senate or something like that.
Yeah, that's basically. I am the
Forerunner
Senate.
government, essentially. The Senate.
Unlimited power. Anyway, that's Star Wars. But, yeah, and the cutscene ends with the portal opening and Guilty Spark going through the portal to Installation 04, which I'm guessing between the beginning of the terminal and the end of the terminal, the installations were already put in place, because you can see them around the arc at the very beginning. But the slip space door opens, he sees his halo, and he says some really bone-chilling stuff. Here's my halo, it's home. Kind of stuff like that. That's not exactly how he says it, but it's really good. And it... Oh, also
it's a creepy line delivery.
It is. And also we get to see... Also, we get to see Abject Testament, which is the monitor of Installation 03, which is an installation we really haven't gone to yet. So that was interesting. He's reddish orangish, kind of the same color as the monitor of Installation 05, which is later on. But yeah, we get to see him very briefly, and all the other monitors, which Guilty Spark doesn't interact in this cutscene, but. All in all, all of these terminals are super meaty.
They're super meaty, and I think it's cool because it makes the moment later in the game really cool when we stumble across 343.
Yes. He's
so
like,
yeah,
hello.
So it kind of gives you a little build up, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. All right, and now I got a little background of what's going on. A little bit, even though it's confusing, but a little bit of background.
And, I mean, as a Halo fan, going back and playing this game and seeing the cutscenes for the first time after all we know between all of the different games, at that point we were up to Reach. So it was really interesting to get more of a before Rampancy and Halo CE stuff for Guilty Spark.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
just
totally.
to see what he was like at the beginning. But it's all the terminals in this game are really, really good. So we'll be dissecting every single one in every single episode.
Absolutely. Let's do some community thoughts on the mission, then we will get out of here. We posted on some socials. What was your feeling? You know, what we talked about at the very beginning is like, you're on the Halo now. Like, how did that feel for you? So we got some responses. David, can you read those?
We got some good responses. So Miles Dill is, I'm gonna murk these aliens. He says minus points for CEA, not as elegant as the OG graphics in my opinion. Miles is an artist, so he can have his opinion, but it's wrong. So I really love the remix, the anniversary edition, the remastered graphics. I think they're cool. Marius Scarson and Peterson says awe, wonder, and excitement. which I think we can all agree with. We got another one from Robert Redder, says, makes me want to give it a mixtape. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but
everything gets a mixtape
like
nowadays.
You give your girlfriend a mixtape. Okay. River Willingham nailed it. Paralyzed, dumbstruck, blinded by its majesty. And Jed Hikes also said, I was blinded by its majesty. So that's an excellent quote reference from Halo 2 intro, which is pretty badass. Which we won't talk about right now because we don't want to spoil it. Brandon Kramer also says, unlike the first time, I found a dirty mag under my older brother's bed, which is a unique take on it. But again, everyone was super positive, as you can imagine. It's a great intro to a game and to a mission.
Well, cool. Let's wrap it up. That'll do it for the Halo mission from Halo Combat Evolved. On the next episode, we will be covering Truth and Reconciliation. We'll be doing some night sniping. It's going to be great.
Yes. Ooh, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolved.
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 And with 30 minutes to spare.